Welcome to Sports Talk Kids. I'm Jack.
I'm Evan.
And we're here with special guest Robby Imcmikowski. So today we're doing our episode. We have Q&A with him. Then we have the Super Bowl predictions. We're going to talk about the MLB, the NHL, the NBA. Evan has his Formula One update. And then we'll do our top 5 NFL fan bases and our debate about who should be the NFL MVP.
Wow. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys have opinions too?
Yeah.
All right.
I hope.
Okay.
But also, just to let you guys know, we are on other platforms, on Spotify, Apple, Google, and now on YouTube as well, where there is a live FACECAM. So check those out too. So should we hop right into the Q&A? All right. So let's just start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, my name is Robby Imcmikowski, as you said, and I've been very lucky in my life. I've lived in Pittsburgh for 10 years, and I've worked with the Pirates as their field reporter on the TV broadcast starting in 2013, which was the year the Pirates ended a 20-year drought and made the playoffs. And it was a very exciting atmosphere for that game, one that I'll never forget in my entire life. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which a lot of people in Pittsburgh, I know they don't like that, but
Yeah.
we don't control where we're born and where we're raised. That my parents were in control of that. So I grew up in Philadelphia. I lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in northern Arizona, a town called Prescott Valley, Arizona. I used to be a minor league hockey announcer. I was up there for 2 years. And I lived in New York, and I also lived in Maryland for a couple summers as well. Spent a year in Long Island, New York, and I've been working in broadcasting now. This will be my, 2009 was my first year. So what's that? This will be my 15th year doing Major League Baseball games. So I spent 4 years with the Minnesota Twins before I came to the Pirates, and that was a lot of fun. So, and I do a little bit of Penguins hockey as well, hosting for the pregame, the intermissions, and the postgame show.
Okay.
So that's who I am. Is that good enough? My answer good?
That's good enough. That's
All right.
Why did you choose to work in the industry?
You know, Evan, that's a great question. I started late in this business. I was sitting I was at my dad's house on the couch one day, and I used to listen to sports talk radio all the time in Philadelphia. I was about 23, 24 years old. And I thought that this was something that I would be good at and something that I wanted to pursue. So I always had an outgoing personality and was never afraid to talk to people in my life. And obviously I love sports like you guys do. So I thought that was an avenue that I wanted to pursue. So when I was 26 years old, I was playing hockey every morning with a bunch of people that worked for a company called Comcast Spectacor. And they were in charge of the Flyers, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Philadelphia 76ers. They had a minor league hockey team called the Philadelphia Phantoms, which were the American Hockey League, the AHL team for the Flyers. They had a lacrosse team and a couple other teams. And the president of the Philadelphia Phantoms, a guy named Frank Maselli, who now works in San Antonio, he's a big executive with the San Antonio Spurs basketball team. He called me one day and said that there was an opening because the company ran 3 baseball teams in the minor leagues. So they had an opening for a host, like an in-game host. So if you ever go to Pirates games, you see the guy, Joe Klimchak is his name. Yeah. Between innings, he plays games with all the fans, and they do like the silly contests and who can eat a cookie, off their nose, and, just do funny things and play like tic-tac-toe or trivia or spot the Chick-fil-A cow, that kind of thing. So there was a job open to do that job in a town in Maryland, Bowie, Maryland, team called the Bowie Bay Sox. And they are still the AA team for the Baltimore Orioles. So that was my first ever job, holding a microphone. I did that in 2002 and 2003. And then ever since then, I wanted to become a broadcaster. So it was about when I was 25, 26, 27 years old, after I had gotten my college degree at Temple University. And I was working at Temple and decided I wanted to leave the corporate world, the business world, going in at 9 in the morning and leaving at 5 at night. Yep. I wanted to go after sports where you don't have any set hours or a set
Yep.
schedule. So it was a lot of fun. And then one thing led to another. I was the in-arena host for a couple teams. And then I was doing some radio with a couple friends locally in southern New Jersey, just about 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And I ended up getting a job with the Phoenix Coyotes as their pre and post game radio host in the NHL, and I thought that was super cool, and I pursued it ever since then. So that's kind of my story of how I got into it. I wish I knew when I was your guys' age to do it. I mean, do you think that's what you want to do with your career?
Yeah, if sports doesn't work out, like actually playing.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
that's always
anything to do with sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to play also, but I was a little bit too slow and a little bit too short and about 20, 30 pounds too light. So I decided the next best thing would be to talk about sports.
Just
Yeah,
anything with
even if
sports.
it's not broadcasting, it's editing and video, and that's just all. In general, it's just getting into sports is what I really like to do in general.
Yeah, you're working in the business.
Yeah.
You can do anything. You can be a camera person. You can
Yeah.
be an editor. You can be a writer. You can be a producer. I mean, there's just so many different things. You can be a broadcaster. So many different things you can do. You can be a writer if you like to write. You can write for a newspaper, or you can write for online like MLB.com or something like that. So there's a lot of ways you could work in this business, and it's a lot of fun.
All right. This one's a good one. What is your funniest story that you've had?
Oh man, funniest story, Jack. I've been doing this a long time, buddy. There's a lot of stories I could tell from this one. Let me think about that for a second. You know what? I got a funny story for you. So I'll tell you two stories. So when I was working with the Minnesota Twins, they signed a guy from Japan. And when he came over to play for the Twins, we were on TV in Japan all the time. So whenever any Japanese media member would come in, they knew who I was because we were on TV all the time. So, people only knew me in Minnesota and also in Japan because of this one player. So every time I would see a writer from Japan or a TV person, they would always come up to me and say hello and introduce themselves to me. So I'm like, I don't know why I'm so popular in Japan. Well, it's because of this one player, and they took his games all over. And I'll tell you another story. So I believe this was in 2011. I was working with the Minnesota Twins at that time, and I got a call from my boss saying that in a couple days, I don't know if you ever heard of her, but a lady named Ellen DeGeneres, she's a talk show host, and she's really super famous, right?
Oh, yeah.
Super duper famous. So she was coming to Target Field, which is where the Twins play, to do a little bit of a promotional tour because her show was changing time slots. So they said, you're going to do an interview with Ellen DeGeneres. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. And I've interviewed a lot of, famous people before. But what was unique about this one was as we're getting ready to go on the air, I asked her the half inning before we went on the air if I could talk to her for a second. I said, hey, Ellen, I'm sure you've been to a bunch of games, I'm sure you've been to games before in your life, but, here's kind of what we're going to talk about. Well, she interrupts me and says, no, this is actually my first game my first baseball game. I'm like, how is that possible? Like, have you never been like to an LA Dodgers game or an LA Angels game or like the Yankees, the Mets, like as a guest, or had her, how they bring a lot of famous people to throw out the first pitch, right? I said, how is that possible? She's like, no, I've never been to a baseball game in my life. I'm like, your life? Are you serious? And she said, yeah. I said, well, why don't I ask you about that? So we go on camera, and that was the first question I asked her about being at her first ever baseball game. So I go to bed that night. I wake up the next morning. I probably had about 75 messages on my phone. And I'm like, this is either really good or really bad. Well, on the front page of yahoo.com was a story that Ellen DeGeneres attends her first Major League Baseball game, and they put the video up of me interviewing Ellen DeGeneres on the front page of Yahoo. It's like all my friends, all my family, everybody thought it was the coolest thing ever that I interviewed Ellen DeGeneres. And I had no idea until I woke up and saw about 75 messages on my cell phone the next morning. So that was quite a surprise. And that was a pretty crazy story. That's the first one that stands out. There are many, many more along the way that have happened though.
So throughout Pirates and Twins and all that, who's your most favorite player you've ever met or interviewed or?
Yeah, so I get asked that question a lot. So I'll tell you a quick story, and I actually just told this story on another podcast. So, and I'm sure you guys know, but you followed baseball for
Yeah.
most of your lives,
Yeah.
right? So, remember a couple of years ago, you guys were probably about 5, 6, 7 years old. Remember a guy named Josh Harrison?
Who do I?
Oh yeah.
You remember Jay Hay?
Uh-huh.
He's the best. He's one of my favorite guys I've ever met in my life. So we call him Jay Hay, right?
Mhm.
So when I travel on the road, I've been doing this for about 7, 8 years now, maybe 9 years. So when I travel on the road, I collect, if you go to a hotel, they have like the little
Yeah.
bottles
Yeah.
of soap or like a shampoo, conditioner,
Mhm.
body wash, and soap. So I collect all those bottles, and I always ask my coworkers and a couple of the players if they can give me theirs if they're not using it. And then what I do is at the end of the year, I bring it to a homeless shelter and I donate them every year. So Josh Harrison, throughout the years, had always given me the extra soaps from his hotel that he did not use, and I always appreciated that. So at the end of his last season with the Pirates, he knew he was not going to come back to the Pirates. Just when you looked at the roster, and he was going to be a free agent, and we kind of knew he wasn't going to come back. Excuse me, guys. And he called me over to his locker one day, and he said, "Hey, my wife and we're moving out of our house in Pittsburgh, and we're going to take some stuff to Cincinnati, but the rest of it, would you want to donate it to your shelter that you do, where I donate all the toiletries to?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would love that." So we met at his house one day, and and it was me, Josh, his wife, and a couple people from the shelter, the Light of Life shelter, which is on the north side, not far from the ballpark. So we ended up filling a U-Haul full of furniture from Josh's house that we were able to put into the shelter. And then there was a news article that was written about it. And then some people saw the news article and they donated even more stuff. So we were able to fill about 2 or 3 units, kind of apartments in this men's shelter, all because of how generous Josh Harrison was. So like, as he was a great player, he made 2 all-star teams, and the guy plays the game really, really hard, and he's a great teammate. His teammates love him, the fans love him, and he's such a really nice person. But he was able to fill a couple units for homeless people because he was so generous. So people ask me that all the time, and Josh Harrison's one of my favorite guys I've ever been around in my entire career. You get the password locked in.
Yeah,
Tell him to figure it out,
auto
Jack.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing you, Evan. It happens to me all the time, dude. Don't sweat it. My phone locks on me. Sometimes I'm looking at stuff and I look away and my
It's
phone's
just
locked
gone,
by the
yeah.
time I go back down.
Yeah.
Happens to all of us, buddy.
Oh yeah.
What is the best and most challenging part of your job?
So the best part are the fun moments. When guys win, they're pretty emotional after a game, and I get to grab them. They might get a walk-off, hit a walk-off homer, a base hit, a double, a triple. Somebody might steal a base. Something crazy happens, and you get to be a part of some of the biggest moments that a city celebrates on every night. You get a guy dripping sweat, right after hitting a walk-off homer, and you're sticking a microphone in his face, literally a minute later, and he hasn't had a chance to catch his breath. So that part is kind of cool. You get to experience seeing. I love baseball. I love baseball my whole life. I grew up a big Philadelphia Phillies fan when I was a kid. I grew up right by the stadium in Philly. So my I get to go to I've been to every major league stadium, all 30 of them. And that's I should take that back. I haven't been to the new Texas Rangers Stadium that just opened in 2020.
Yeah.
So I've now been to 29 of the 30, but I went to the old Texas Rangers Stadium many, many times. So it's real cool to have my job being at the ballpark every week during the summer, every 3 days, with the exception when you're at home, obviously, but every 3 or 4 days you're switching and flying to a different ballpark. We stay in nice hotels. We get to see the ballparks. We eat good food. We get to make friends around baseball. And I have a lot of relationships and friendships that last for life. So that's the best part of the job. The most challenging is that it's still a job. And sometimes, if a team doesn't win, guys don't really feel like talking a lot. They don't, a lot of times if either a team is struggling or a player is struggling, you could have a player that could be, 0 for 10, 0 for 15, 0 for 20. And sometimes, if you have to ask them something, maybe it's not the best time to do it, but sometimes you have to do your job. And it's also a lot of work. We work very hard to put stuff on television every night to make it interesting for guys like you watching at home. We research, we look for, we talk to parents, we talk to brothers, sisters, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and, we try to get photos, either from their old high school or from their college or from the minor leagues. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. Just dealing with the ups and downs. The most challenging part is I work all summer. I don't get a lot of time off in the summer. So I miss, certain things with my friends or with my family. My niece's christening, I'm not going to be able to make because it's the opening weekend in April. But there's also a lot of cool things where I have a little bit of time in the winter, where I can go spend time with my family like I did this past weekend as well. So just like anything else, it's a job. I think people think that, we just walk on television, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. We work as hard as everybody else does, in their jobs, even if it's not television. Mm-hmm. So I hope that makes a little sense for you.
Yeah, that's definitely a life lesson to learn. It's not always easy. Any job is still a job.
You got to work at anything, no matter what it is. If you're going to have success and if you're going to be, take pride and be good at your job, you got to work hard at it. And TV is no different. I mean, we study a lot. We do a lot of research. We study, the players, their stories, their backgrounds, where they're from. We look at rosters that they used to play on, and we would see if there's any connections, with teammates. So like, you have a guy, for example, say Austin Hedges, right? Austin Hedges played for the San Diego Padres for a while. Now the Pirates just signed him this offseason. Mm-hmm. Austin Hedges played ball as a kid with Joe Musgrove, who used to pitch for the Pirates. So I went to Joe's
and the Padres too.
And the Padres, yep. So I have a photo in my phone of Austin Hedges and Joe Musgrove with Austin's dad and another pitcher named Zach Davies, who is on the Arizona Diamondbacks right now. I have a picture of the three of them when they were, I want to say about 11 or 12 years old, about your age. They were all on the same youth team, and now all three of them are playing in the big leagues right now.
Oh,
Do you want me to show you the picture?
Really cool.
See if I can find it for you.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. So we have to dig. We have to dig stuff like that. Yeah, you got to talk a little louder and probably be a little bit closer to the microphone. See if I can find that. I'll find that picture for you while you ask me the next question.
All right. So what's a typical day at work like for you? Broadcasting or?
Yeah, it gets pretty intense. It can be pretty intense. And I'm going to find this picture here for you. And I'm going to show you now. Here it is. So you're going to see this picture. You're going to see this picture on television. So that's Austin Hedges on the left. That's Austin's dad. And then that's Zach Davies right there. Look at Joe Musgrove. That's Joe when he was a kid. Look how big he was as a kid, huh? We've put that picture on TV before. But this year when the Pirates play the Padres, you're going to see this. You see that on the camera? I don't know if you can zoom in on that. We'll give you a little sneak peek. So this is
watch out for that then. Pirates Padres
right there. You see that? See that right there? So that's a picture. You're going to see that. So you're going to see that picture when at some point in time, if Joe's playing the Padres, you're going to see this picture pop up on television. Or if the Pirates face Zach Davies too. So I could use it for both teams. So it's a relevant story for both when we play the Diamondbacks and when we play the Padres.
Yeah, okay. That'll be cool.
Yep. Is that it? Are we done?
No.
This is easy. It's the easiest podcast I've ever done.
We've had some newer
Talk close to the mic.
How have things changed since you started working in the industry?
Oh, man. Social media. That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like doing it. But it's a part of the job. So I have to do it. Social media is a big thing because it's easy for people to say mean things to people online. And that's not nice at all. I don't believe in that. I'll never do that to anyone. Even if, I'm not a fan of someone, I would just not say anything as opposed to write something mean to them before I've ever met them. So I don't like it because people say very mean things. Now there are also people that say very nice things too. But if you make a mistake, if I make a mistake on the air, it's going to get replayed on social media over and over and over again. But that's part of the business, and that just it comes with the territory, as they say. So, so the business has changed a lot with that. It's also changed a lot in terms of the players. It used to be I walked up to players and would just ask them questions. Now a lot of times players want to go on TV because they can, enhance their social media, or we can put them on TV and they can put it and promote themselves. So now a lot of players used to not like when the media came up. Now a lot of them embrace it because they want to go into broadcasting when their career is over. And we work with players during their career.
Walker is now a broadcaster after he played for the Pirates.
Neil Walker's one. We work with, you remember Stephen Brault? He wants to get into broadcasting when it's done. Remember Cole Tucker? He wants to go into broadcasting.
On that jersey.
Oh, you do? There you go. I'll take a picture of that and I'll send it to him when we're done. I'll show Cole that you're wearing the jersey that he signed. He'll appreciate that. And so social media and access to the players is what has changed the most since I got in this business.
So, before the draft starts, who do you think Pirates?
There you go.
Who do you think the Pirates should draft number 1 this year?
Oh man, it's too early to say. We're only in January, so I think we got to see how the season goes. We got to see how the season comes along and
positional needs,
what needs there are. But the one thing in baseball, Jack, is that unlike when you look at the NFL or when you look at the NBA draft, they can draft a guy and they expect him to play right away. When you draft a player in baseball, it's going to be at least a couple of years. Remember, a couple of years ago, the Pirates drafted Henry Davis, who was a catcher out of the University of Louisville, and he has yet to make his big league debut yet. And there's a chance he's able to make his debut this year, but it just takes a while for guys to develop. So I think, so guys have to kind of look at, how much depth they have in the system. So as much as I'd love to answer that question, it's just way too early to tell. And there's a kid named Dylan Cruz who plays for LSU right now. He's an outfielder. A lot of things that I've read, a lot of people say he's the best player in the draft and he's probably going to go first overall, but you never know what's going to happen.
Injuries.
He can get hurt. He can, maybe not have a great year. Or he can, go crazy and hit 1 million home runs and bat 400 and he'll be like Bryce Harper, where he's going to be the first pick in the draft, or like a LeBron James or Connor McDavid in hockey, guys that they're going to be good and they're going to be the top pick. But I think the general manager, Ben Cherington of the Pirates, and his scouting staff, they're going to, kind of look at what they need in the minor leagues, see how much depth, they have. When they drafted Henry, they needed catchers and they traded for a guy named Endy Rodriguez, who is now the top prospect in the system. So I think they have to evaluate that as time goes on. So just a little too early to answer that question right now, but it's still a good question.
So how do you feel about the Pirates' offseason moves, trading and picking up free agents this offseason?
How do you feel about it?
I think it's a pretty good year. I think it's better than the last few years.
Yeah, what makes you say that?
They've just made more moves, and Andrew McCutchen is my favorite player of all time.
Right, so you just said it right there. That's what I was trying to get you to say. I mean, they signed Andrew McCutchen this year. I mean, I haven't seen a fan base get more excited than I did this offseason with Kutch coming back. I mean, Kutch is a great guy. He won an MVP with the Pirates. His teammates love him. He married a girl who's from Western Pennsylvania, and he's got 3 kids. And his oldest son is named Steel after Steel City. Yeah. So that's got people very, very excited. And having Andrew McCutchen back is going to be exciting for the fans. It's exciting for us. And I hope he has a great year. I think, I don't know if he's going to play every day like he used to, but he's going to play most games this year, either as a DH or he's going to play in the outfield or he's going to do something. And then you look at Brian Reynolds, hopefully he's able to, there's some talk about, is he going to be traded? Is he not going to be traded? We have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen. I hope he's not, because I think he's a really good player.
Really
I think
good.
he makes the Pirates a lot better. Brian Hayes at third base is good. O'Neill Cruz is obviously.
He's definitely he's going to be a really good player. I mean, he already is, but
who are you talking about?
Cruz. He's
Yeah.
getting better. He's definitely going to progress throughout the years.
Did you ever see him in person?
No, I've never met him.
He's 6'7" though.
You almost think he's a basketball player.
Yeah.
Because he's so big and he's so strong. You watch him take batting practice, and it's like, wow. You watch him throw the ball almost 100 miles an hour across from shortstop to front, 100 miles an hour. You know?
Yeah, fastest throw.
I'm a first baseman. I don't even think I could. I mean, that's tough.
You're worried about going through putting a hole in your glove.
Yeah.
Similar
You
to
catch
Aaron
one.
Judge, same type of build, just same type of power.
Big guy, yeah. So hopefully with him at shortstop, and they got Jiwan Bay, who can play second base. He can play center field. You got Jack Sawinski. So when you look at the outfield, you got McCutcheon, you got Reynolds, you got Sawinski, you got Bay, and then you look
at Carlos Santana.
And Carlos Santana didn't get to first base yet. So you got Choi, G-Man Choi. You got Carlos Santana at first base, and you have a lefty and you have a righty, although Santana's a switch hitter.
Yeah.
But you look at a guy like Santana, he's 36 years old, but he's a veteran guy who's been around for a long time. And I think that's what the Pirates wanted. They wanted a veteran guy to work with a lot of the younger players on the roster. You got Kutch, who's a veteran who can work with the younger players. And then you look at Austin Hedges, who's a really good defensive catcher. I mean, of course, he wants to, be able to hit a little bit better, but he's really good at working with the pitching staff. And when you look around Major League Baseball, a lot of catchers are there to be catchers, not to be hitters. There aren't many catchers who hit really well. JT Realmuto, you got Contreras, Yadi Molina was one. I mean, there are not that many catchers who hit really well. So they want defensive. They want defensive first catchers, and that's what they are. So I think that's going to be really good. When you look at the pitching staff, you got Mitch Keller, you got Roansy Contreras, you got Rich Hill, you got JT Brubaker, and I'm drawing a complete Vince Velasquez we just signed. I'm talking about the starters, though. So you got a pretty good rotation. And then when you look in the minor leagues, you got Michael Burrows, you got Quinn Priester, you got Luis Ortiz. So, I mean, you got a decent amount of guys who can step in if somebody gets hurt or if somebody's, having a rough time and, not performing quite well. You got an all-star as a closer in David Bednar. You got, you get Chase DeYoung, who had a good year. They just signed a guy, Harleen Garcia, who's pretty good. So it's shaping up to be a pretty good roster, and hopefully we have a lot better year on the field. But I think they did a great job of putting this team together. And Rich Hill is going to be 43 years old on opening day.
Yeah.
And he's played for a bunch of different teams. But, again, you have such a young pitching staff that he's going to be able to help those guys out a lot. Contreras, rookie, Keller, fourth year. I mean, Velasquez has been in the big leagues a while. Brubaker's been in the big leagues about 3 or 4 years now. So you got guys who can, learn from a guy who's 43 years old in the same rotation.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I thought it was really good.
From all the moves and trades and signings all this year, it's really hard to tell the exact predictions for the season. And most likely they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. But how much better do you think they're going to be from last year?
Well, I think it depends how good the rest of the division is going to be too, and how good other teams in the league are. I mean, when you look at baseball, anybody could come in and throw a no-hitter on any given night. I mean, anybody can do it. So it's hard to put a number on it.
Yeah.
Look at the Baltimore Orioles last year. I think they had 41 more wins last year than they had the year before. I mean, imagine 41. If the Pirates won 41 more games, they win 103 games. It'd be the best team. It might be the best team in Major League Baseball. You improve by that. Now the Orioles fell short of the playoffs because they play in a very tough division. They had the Yankees, they had Toronto, they had Boston. You got Baltimore, and Tampa Bay's really good too. So they're in a tough division. Now, with the National League Central, it was two teams. It was the Brewers and it was the Cardinals. And the Brewers had a rough go in the month of September last year.
The Cardinals had a whole bunch of guys retire. They had
Pujols retired. Molina, but they signed Wilson Contreras from the Cubs.
That was a good.
So that's a really good signing too. So there's a lot that I just think it depends how other teams perform, because you see teams in your division quite a bit. You used to see them 18, 19 times a year. Now you're going to see them probably 12, 13 times a year. So when you look at, that's 60 to 65
it doesn't matter
of your
as
games.
much, but
It's still very important, beating teams in your division, and then you look at the rest of the National League. Look at Phillies, the Braves, the Mets, There's a lot of good teams. Colorado's they had a little bit of a rough go, but like you get the Dodgers, you get the Padres. I mean, there's a lot of good teams out there. So I think it's how other teams are able to improve.
So we already touched on Andrew McCutcheon, and I've read people, and I've heard people comparing this offseason to like after the 2012, before their 94 win season, 2013.
Yeah.
Comparing the offseason and the similarities. So, Pat, do you see that kind of?
Well, it's hard for me to give you a perfect comparison because I was not here in 2012, so I don't know what those years were like in 2011 and 2012 because I didn't work with the Pirates then. I was with the Twins. But what I will say is that when you look at the farm system that they have right now, you look at AAA and you see guys that are going to probably make their big league debut this year, like AA, AAA. So you got like Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, Michael Burrows. You got Quinn Priester. You got Luis Ortiz, who made his debut last year. Contreras made his debut last year. Cruz made his debut. Well, it was the end of 21, but still it was only 2 games. But you got Cruz who came up. And it reminds you a lot of some of the younger guys, that the Pirates had back then at that point in time. But and then you look at the lower levels of the farm system. You got Anthony Solomito, who's a pitcher who's supposed to be really good. They took 38th overall. You got Owen Kellington. You got Bubba Chandler, who's a infielder, and he's a pitcher. You got Termar Johnson, who they drafted in the first round last year, who's an infielder who's supposed to be a really, really good hitter. Now, I haven't seen him play. He played a couple games, but apparently he was the best hitter in the draft last year. So they really have done a great job of building up their farm system. Plus, they made a couple big international signings. They signed a guy from, I believe he's from Korea. They signed a guy from Korea who's supposed to be really good. He's only, I think, 16 or 18 years old. So it's going to be a while before he comes to the big leagues. But yeah, so but to answer your question, Jack, I can see some similarities, and I see a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for the team this year. And you hear from the players too.
This is I probably think this every year, but this is the most positive thing going into a season. Just thinking that they're having a good.
Well, now, since you really started studying baseball, I mean, they haven't made the playoffs since you were 4. So do you remember that? Do you remember 2015?
Yeah, I remember, watching the games on TV.
You did? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. It was definitely that season was definitely very fun. And
you guys were 4 years old since you've seen a playoff game in Pittsburgh. So let's hope you're able to see some, while you're 12, right?
You walk around the outside, you see the banners, and it's like 1963, and you just think about it. When's the next time that's going to happen? And
we hope it's soon. Believe me, we think the same thing, buddy. Believe me, we want that as well, Evan. I think the Pirates are closer to seeing
they're
those
definitely
days.
getting closer, and I feel like
last 2 years they've just been getting a little bit better.
Yeah, it takes time. You had to trade off all your best players. When the new GM took over, you had to trade your best players. I mean, it stinks, but you had to trade like Musgrove and Josh Bell and Jameson Taillon and Adam Frazier. There's so many players you had to trade, and that hurts. But at the same time, you had to restock the farm system and get a lot of good young players. And if you're going to get good young minor league players, you're going to make trades with teams who are ready to win now. So they want players who are already good and established in the big leagues.
They're trying to build a younger team for 5 years in the future.
Right. So we had to endure a couple seasons of getting kicked in the stomach a little bit in order to be where they are now. Because what they're doing now is they sacrificed a couple years, and hopefully they're able to have a little bit longer term success as opposed to just being good for 1 year or 2 years. You got some of these younger guys who can be here for 5 or 6 years, like Key Brian Hayes, who they signed to a long-term contract. Cruz is going to be property of the Pirates for 6 more years. I mean, you got a lot of Contreras, Keller, a couple more years. There's a lot of pieces you can build around. Then, if you need a player, now you're at a point where you have a lot of good players in your farm system, and if they're in it, if they're competing for a playoff spot, in contention for a playoff spot, then they can trade minor leaguers and get players that are already in the big leagues and good. So hopefully that explains a little bit, what their philosophy and where they are right now.
Now, I know this is a very controversial topic, and don't feel obligated to answer this, but
Am I going to be I'm putting
So I mean, this is
Evan's gonna put me on the spot here. I don't know, man.
this is like a social media. When you
Yeah,
brought
that's
up
all right.
social media.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but what are your thoughts on Bob Nutting and what he's done with the team?
Ownership.
Yeah, you know what? Bob is an extremely nice man.
Yeah.
He's a really good man, and he's very, very accessible. You know, Bob is a very accessible guy, and he really cares about the team. He cares about the franchise. He cares about his employees. Now, I know some people, wish he would spend more money, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is that, you look at other teams who spend a lot of money and haven't seen the results.
Yeah.
So I think Bob identified where he wanted the team to get better, which was development. Remember after the 2019 season, he relieved the manager of his duties, the general manager, and the team president. And he had to pay a lot of money.
Clean sweep.
Right. And he had to pay a lot of money. And that was, it's a tough decision to make, to fire people, which I know he doesn't enjoy doing. So I think he identified it, and he brought people in who can really, kind of chart a different path for the franchise. So a lot of people, he takes a lot of heat, Bob Nutting.
Yeah.
But he's one of the nicest people I've ever been around in my career. And he always comes up, he always says hello. And I think you're going to see in due time that he's going to, take appropriate steps on the baseball side to make this team better.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like it's at some point it's gonna pay out, and we're gonna be very happy.
Yeah.
We're gonna realize that this has all been a plan, and this is what he's been trying to do for. I don't. You have to remind me how long he's been.
2006, I believe he bought the team.
This is what he's been doing, and it's
been a
not
while.
like it's bad. He's just trying to build the team, and that's what you're supposed to do as an owner.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, and a lot of people in Pittsburgh don't realize this, but a lot of cities we go, they don't like the owner there either.
Yeah.
It happens all over the place. It's not just in Pittsburgh, I promise you.
Yeah.
So, who do you think will be the player on the team that will help most?
Ooh, man, that's a great question.
Who will step up?
Who will step up? I mean, does O'Neill Cruz count?
He counts.
Yeah, everyone. Even if they come up, you can go minor league if you think they're going to come up and they're going to make a big impact on the team. That's what you can answer that to.
Yeah.
I think Cruz is going to have like a record season here. He's just going to come up and hit
I feel like
home runs. No.
I mean, this isn't my thing to talk about. I feel like Kutch is really going to motivate the team and teach them and be a leader for them.
For sure he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the resume to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kutch talks, people listen.
Yeah.
He's the most loved guy in Pittsburgh in 21st century.
You think? Yeah. I mean, he's up there.
At least right now. I mean,
Actually, that's a great debate. Are there more athletes who has been more popular than Kutch? You got Sidney Crosby, obviously.
Yeah.
Ben.
Ben. Pickett Kenny Pickett coming
Hey,
from.
he's 1 year though.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown.
Brown was really good for a while. I mean, there are not many players who are more popular in the city of Pittsburgh than Kutch.
Yeah.
I mean, Kutch is he's up there quite a bit. He's up there quite a bit. So as far as having the biggest impact, you're talking about on the field, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think you look at the last couple months that Mitch Keller had last year.
Mm-hmm.
If he can start the season the way he finished last year, he's going to be really, really good. If Cruz can polish up a couple things, I mean, you want to see him make a few less errors.
Yeah.
But it's hard for a guy who's 6'7" to play shortstop. I mean, it's just not an easy position. And shortstop's a hard position to play to begin with.
Yeah.
Just in general, it's a difficult position to play. He can be obviously a big impact player. What if Brian Reynolds returns to his 2021 All-Star form?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. But in terms of having the biggest impact, I think if kind of a two-headed monster, if you have Mitch Keller and Roansy Contreras perform the way they did the final couple months of last year, and if your pitching is good, your team's going to win a lot of games. It's hard to win games 7-6, 8-7.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as hard to win 3-2, 4-3, 2-1 games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been a little bit of an issue lately.
Wins the championship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and getting guys into into the 6th, 7th inning, then you could turn the game over to your bullpen, and your bullpen's not as taxed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the starting rotation, Keller and Contreras, are my two keys.
Yeah, I think that's. So you used to work with West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
So
Just basketball, not football.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm a West Virginia fan myself.
You are.
So what's your favorite story with Bob Huggins?
Oh man. I'll tell you something. He's my all-time favorite interview of all time that I've ever done is Bob Huggins.
Mhm.
You know why? Because he gives you the truth.
Yeah.
He gives you the truth. If you ask a dumb question, he's going to give you an answer accordingly, and you're going to look like a fool. Okay. I love Bob Huggins. He was so very good to us when we did West Virginia basketball games. He treated us really well. And when we found out we were not going to televise the games anymore, the last game that we did at halftime, I interviewed Bob. He went into the locker room. Then I talked to the equipment manager and I said, hey, can I have one of Hug's pullovers? You know how he always wears that half zip like I'm wearing? He wears the West Virginia half zip every game. So he's a lot bigger than I am.
Yeah.
So when I went to do the interview at the end of the game, I was wearing his pullover, which, I could take a swim in that thing. It was so big. And I did that, and he got a kick out of me wearing his pullover when I went to interview him. So I love interviewing Bob Huggins. He's very honest. He's very open, and he's very direct. He doesn't play games. He does not mess around at all. And he's my favorite interview of all time because if he's thinking something, he's going to say it. He doesn't mess around. He doesn't give you a coach speak or give you a fake answer or give you a fluff. He gives you the truth 100% of the time.
So I know we've already touched on this at the beginning of the interview, but if there's any extra tips, what would you give kids that want to be in the sports broadcasting?
Yeah.
What tips would you give them?
I get asked that question all the time. And I think if you talk to different people on television, I think they'll give you different answers. So what I would say is repetition and relationships. Remember the 2 R's, repetition and relationships. So the more you do something, the better you get at it, okay? So when you look at any facet of life, okay? So your dad's a lawyer, right? I'll bet if you ask your dad right now, if he was as good as he is now in his first couple of years practicing law, my guess is he's probably going to tell you, I got better as time went on. All right. And then you talk to a broadcaster and you say, are you as good now as you were when you first started? I would say 100%, 99% of them are going to say, no, I had to work a lot from when I first started. So you want to do repetition as much as you can. I know you want to, what you guys doing a podcast. If you do a podcast once a week, you do it for a year. That's 52 interviews in a year, okay? 52 weeks in a year. Yeah. I guarantee you, if you listen to week 1 and then you listen to week 52, you're going to go, wow, how much better did I get at that, right? So repetition is the first thing. And you don't realize it as you're doing it. You realize it a month, 2 months, 3 months later, a year later, a year and a half, 2 years later. You realize how much better you get because you're going to get more comfortable. You're going to get comfortable looking at that camera right there. It doesn't bother me if there's a camera shooting us right now. If there's a microphone and 2 guys interviewing me, there are going to be 10,000 people sitting out here. It doesn't change the way I approach my job because it's the same thing, whether it's a camera and there's 10 million people watching or whether there's 50,000 people there and no camera. It's all the same. You talk the same way. It doesn't make a difference, right? Because you're talking to an audience of people. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, in my business, is relationships. You want to develop as many relationships as you can because you want to tell people stories. Yeah. You want the people to get to know who they are, and my boss tells me, and this philosophy I kind of live by with my job is people root for who they like. So make me like them. Yeah. So when you listen to Neil Walker and Greg Brown in the booth, they're going to talk about a guy and how he's hitting, how he's fielding, how he's pitching. Okay. And then when they come to me, I'm going to tell you his story about his family, or I'm going to tell you a story about his background, or I'm going to tell you about his parents, or I'm going to interview his parents, or you're going to find out something that you didn't previously know about somebody that's going to make you want to root for him. And that's my job, is to make you root for these players, by telling a cool personal story about him. And how am I able to do that? By having a good relationship with the player, with his mom, his dad, brother, sister, wife, niece, nephew, whoever it is. I try to get to know their whole entire family, and it gives me a better chance to tell their story. So the better, you want to have as many relationships as you can, and you want as much repetition as you can.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. So we're done with the interview. Now we're just going to go on to some sports news. And
Oh, now it's like sports talk radio,
yeah,
huh?
Now
Yep.
here we go.
Man, I've done sports talk radio. I'm excited for this.
All right, so
What do we got?
The Super Bowl coming up. So
Yeah.
Eagles and Chiefs here from Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
we're rooting for the Eagles.
I was at the NFC Championship game on Sunday.
Oh.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it beat the 49ers.
31-6.
Yeah, that was definitely
a blowout.
Yeah, it was blowout city. I don't know how they were going to
49ers.
do it.
I mean, they didn't have the best depth. I mean, their luck with quarterbacks are terrible.
No, it's not
Brock
good.
Purdy, and then I forget
Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson with
Yeah.
a concussion.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Just nothing they could have done.
And they had to put Purdy back in, and he got hurt.
Torn UCL is out for 6 months now.
Yeah, in baseball, he would miss over a year.
Yeah,
Because
because you
you're
gotta
just throwing so
keep
You
much.
throw
throwing
baseball
it,
100 times a night.
Yeah.
Football, you can throw 30 times, and it's not as hard of a whipping motion because you're not doing a full windup. You're just stepping back and throwing, as
Yeah.
opposed to a full windup with a violent motion 100 times a game.
And then
So-
that's I saw maybe surgery. Like that's immediate surgery. If you, for MLB, like that's
You would think it'd be Tommy
You'd
John
be-
surgery.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Hopefully, he's able to recover and be back in time, but who knows how that's going to go. So for the Super Bowl, man, whew, you know what? I actually think the Chiefs are going to win. I just think because Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
is so good, but the Eagles have such a stacked, talented roster.
it's definitely gonna be close. And
Their
that's
defense is good. The spread's only 1.5, so I think that's what all the
Definitely
gamblers
And
think.
I mean, we all thought that with Buccaneers and Chiefs, and we all know how that ended. But I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like the Chiefs just didn't have their best talent on the field. I feel like the Eagles and the Chiefs are going to be really even because Patrick Mahomes is playing through an injury. I feel like he's going to play.
2 weeks now to rest up. Definitely.
I think he's definitely going to try and just perform his best. I mean, it's a Super Bowl, so you got to do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just going to be really good. And this, again,
It's gonna be
spread,
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. I think Chiefs are going to win. I think it's going to be. Man, I don't know if it's going to be a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to win his second Super Bowl in 5 years as a starter, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, it's been crazy to think he's coming in. I mean, he had a veteran QB starting in
Yeah. You talking about for the Chiefs?
Yeah, when Alex Smith.
Oh, yeah, Alex
he had
Smith. Yeah.
veteran before his
Yeah.
injury. Veteran QB probably got a lot of stuff from him.
Yeah, learned a lot from a veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I think Chiefs. Who do you guys think? What do you think, Jack?
I'm saying Eagles because they're just number one, like every category across the board, top 5 at least.
Yeah.
Chiefs are a little bit lower, and the Eagles just have so much momentum.
Yeah, they're playing well.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts has been incredible.
Hurts, yeah.
So good.
I do think Eagles because Patrick Mahomes playing through that injury, high ankle sprain. That's tough to play through because that's tough for any. If that was a regular season, you'd be out like 6 weeks, 4 weeks.
Probably, yeah.
But he's playing through that. I mean, he played really well against
Yeah.
the Bengals, so you never know.
If not, they can just replace his
Yeah.
foot, give him a different foot for the
Yeah.
Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and put the other foot back on.
I know
What do you think?
you think it's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great game.
Great game.
I think it's going to be a real close game. I think it's good. We're going to see a lot of drama on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Down the wire. We'll see.
Evan, what do you think? Who do you
Oh.
think's going?
I said the Eagles.
No.
You think the?
I think Eagles is.
So you say Eagles. I say Chiefs.
Eagles.
Okay,
I
I'm
think,
outnumbered here.
Yeah.
Are you going to play this back at me if I'm wrong? The
Yeah,
Eagles
yeah,
win.
Probably.
All right, I'll wear it. It's okay.
Okay.
You can show it to me. Tell me I was wrong. Well, I don't work in the prediction business.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close.
Or I'd be a
No,
rich man winning a
that's
lot of
why.
money gambling.
Yeah, no, I don't. That's why I don't. I mean, I don't understand anything with it. The spread, I only understand like the over under, and that's.
Yeah.
All right, now everyone's favorite category, the MLB. So
Yeah.
I mean, well, let's just
Yeah.
think. Like, what do you think were the best? Not for just the Pirates, but like in general, what the best free agent signings or trades or anything?
Ooh, man. I'd have to have a list in front of me, but I think when you look at a couple things.
Yeah.
I mean, with the
I
big
think
story.
the Padres have made some big moves. They have Bogarts and they have Soto.
Tati,
and
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Tati's gonna be fired up when he comes back. I feel like
I
it's.
hope.
I mean, yeah.
He's got a lot to prove. He let his
Yeah,
teammates
he does.
down.
Yeah, he definitely did. It was very unfortunate learning about that.
Yeah. And how about the Mets spent a boatload of money,
Yeah,
got a boatload of players.
Verlander,
They lost Jacob DeGrom's best pitcher. In my opinion, I think DeGrom's the best pitcher in baseball.
Carlos Correa, how about that? He went to like
Played for like 6 teams this
Yeah.
offseason and never played a game.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that ever. only to go back to the Twins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
He's a great player too.
What about the Angels losing Pujols and then Yadier Molina?
You mean
The Cardinals, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Pujols used to play for the
Yeah.
Angels. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
The Cardinals. The one thing that's impressive about the Cardinals is that every year they put themselves in position to win. Where they traded for Paul Goldschmidt, then they went and got Nolan
They're
Arenado.
very consistent. They're not.
Yeah.
Right. They always have a chance. They always have a chance at the dance every year. They're always good. I think you look at the Texas Rangers. I mean, they hired Bruce Bochy. He's won 3 World Series. Bochy won 3, and they went and got Jacob deGrom as the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Definitely.
And then the Mets, you got Verlander and Max Scherzer. These guys seem to be ageless. They I don't think they're pitching like they're 22 years
Or
old
like
again.
the Tom Brady.
If they still had DeGrom,
Right.
they'd be
Tom
the
Brady,
best
I mean.
pitcher, the best pitching team in the
Yeah.
league.
Well, they
rotation.
would, but if they had DeGrom, I don't think they would have gotten Verlander.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think they would have gotten
Cap.
both. I think
Yeah.
once they
Space.
lost DeGrom, I think they identified Verlander and said we want him to replace him. I
Yeah,
just don't.
'cause it's not a huge step down. Sorry for interrupting, but it's not
That's
a
okay.
huge step down. Verlander, I mean, he's been very consistent with the Astros. I don't think it's a huge step down from DeGrom.
No.
And then also adding,
Talking about the Mets, Jose
Yeah.
Quintana,
yeah,
and did they sign Chris Bassett as well? I think they signed Bassett from the A's.
Yeah.
I heard about.
I think they were pretty good, and they signed a bunch. They got Lindor. I mean,
I think they're going to
Jeff
make a great.
McNeil got an extension.
They're definitely in it.
Pretty good.
They're definitely in it this year for sure.
Yeah, but look at the Braves. Look how good the Braves are.
Oh yeah.
Austin Riley at third base. You got Ozzie Albies. You got Ronald Acuna. I mean, you got William Contreras. You got Wilson's brother.
It's
Wilson's
definitely
little brother.
a lot of teams that are in it this year.
Yeah, they're pretty good. So I every year is exciting. I mean, what about the Angels and Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
I mean,
Trout.
how good are they going to be?
Yeah.
Mike Trout's the greatest player in the world.
Definitely.
I mean, he was hurt last year, so he didn't play a lot.
a little bit injury prone. But
Yeah, last year he got hurt. I think his calf, I believe, was hurt. So
Mhm.
if he comes back, he's going to have a monster year like he
Yeah.
always does. He's going to bat over 300. He's going to hit
he's gonna-
40 homers. He's going to get 120 RBIs. He's going to steal 30 bases.
I mean,
He's the best player
he's
you're
the
ever going to see in
ideal
your life.
baseball player. He's who every kid wants to be.
That dude got drafted, I think it was 21st or 22nd overall.
I think it was
21st. Was it 24th? He was in the 20s. I can't remember exactly. But imagine taking 20-something players ahead of him.
yeah.
I mean, it's the same with Tom Brady. He was picked 7th round.
Seventh
years
round.
ago.
And
Sixth
now-
round, 199th
Oh,
overall,
yeah.
Tom Brady. Yeah.
Yeah.
198 different picks went before Tom Brady.
That's
I can't do the
Too
math.
many.
That's
And 20-something went before Mike Trout.
all 30,
Think about that.
almost all 30 teams passed up
the
on
two
him except for
greatest
the
players.
Patriots.
All 30 teams passed up 6 times.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's crazy to think about that.
Yeah. Imagine pass up on Tom Brady 6 times. People did that Mike Trout. I mean, not 6 times, but people
Yeah.
did it to Mike
Oh,
Trout
yeah.
too. So my prediction, Pirates going to win the World Series.
I mean that's not a bad prediction. I feel like they can. I think they have a chance at the playoffs. I feel like if they're gonna keep developing, but this year maybe if they just perform a little bit better.
We're going to be better.
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
going to be better this year. It's
I
going to be a
think-
lot of fun.
It's gonna be close, but I think
Yeah.
they have a chance of making playoffs.
Dad's starting to give us the rap sign, so we
Yeah.
can blow through this a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
We can ask him. We just won't spend as much time, all right?
Yeah,
So I don't need to do
We'll
that.
spend a few seconds on each one.
I don't know any of those.
Or pick your best topic you want to talk about. Let's do it.
Let's do the top 5 NFL fan bases. We'll do that.
Oh, man. Whew.
We have the
Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles,
Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
Bills, Chiefs.
Oh, we're going to put it up here.
we
Oh,
got
yeah.
we got. a
Oh,
whole
am I
board.
naming it or are you guys naming it?
We got.
I mean, if you want it right, I mean,
We have some.
I'm going to say the
Bills.
Chiefs. I'm going to say, the Buffalo Bills. They're
Bills
number
number
1.
one.
Yeah. They jump on tables for crying out loud.
Yeah.
They jump on tables at tailgates. I mean, that's crazy.
It's pretty-
I would not. You couldn't pay me enough money to jump on the table and break it. Just so you know.
that seems really fun.
Yeah.
The Seahawks.
It seems fun.
Honestly.
You would jump on the table and break
Yeah.
it? You're out of your mind, dude. All
The
right.
Seahawks are pretty crazy.
Seahawks up there. Is this? Are we doing this collectively or is it
Yeah,
my thing?
collectively.
Oh,
Yeah,
collectively. Okay, so we're gonna do Seattle.
2
All right.
or 2. I mean, are we going from 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Or are we...
I think Seattle's 3. I think we put
Okay.
Seattle.
All right, who's second? Philly, Kansas City, Dallas. I mean,
I-
Dallas is an
Dallas
international
is-
brand
yeah.
because you got Cowboy fans all over the people that aren't necessarily from Dallas.
Yeah.
Because like Bills fans, are
They're
people that are from
just
Western New York,
Yeah.
like upstate Western New
I
York.
got a neighbor that's Bills Mafia. I think he was born in New York and he moved
Right.
over, so
Yeah, and they don't lose their
they don't lose.
they don't lose their
team pride.
Saints
loyalty.
at 2. I think Saints at
The
2.
Saints.
Saints have
The
a really good fan base.
I don't know, Jack. I don't know if I agree with that.
Mm.
I mean, they're pretty good. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're second. I don't know.
Chiefs
Chiefs are pretty
Eagles.
bad.
Have you seen the Chiefs tailgates?
The Chiefs tailgates are.
They're out there at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning
Yeah.
For,
every Sunday.
yeah.
So that's
So Chiefs or Eagles? I say Chiefs or Eagles.
Let's
But whatever
go,
you guys decide, it's your show,
let's
not
go
mine.
Chiefs 2, Eagles 4.
We can do. Saints 5, maybe. Sorry, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Chiefs 2.
All right, so we got
Eagles
KC second,
4.
Seattle third, Phillies fourth.
I'm sure you'll like that one.
And
Yeah.
then the Cheeseheads, maybe.
What about the Steelers?
The Steelers.
Yeah.
Terrible town.
They're a brand all over
Oh,
the
yeah,
country.
they're
They're a
definitely-
brand all over the world, aren't they?
I think so.
You want to go Steelers 5? And it's
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I
The
mean-
Steelers. We'll give. Why don't we give Jack the
Yeah.
Saints will be 5A.
All right. Yeah.
So we have the Saints 5. We have the Steelers 5, and then the Saints will be 5A for Jack.
Yeah.
Do you like the Saints?
No, but
No, I think
What,
I
who-
just
who do you,
think
who's your
they're-
favorite football team?
Steelers.
Okay.
Steelers.
Who's yours, Evan? Same thing.
Yeah, Steelers.
Okay, 5A. Are we going to go all the way to 32? Just top 5?
I don't think we have
Yep,
time for
let's
that.
go.
No, we don't
32,
have
baby.
All right, what's next? What's next, Jack? Let's get to the next topic.
All right, here, final topic. We have the debate. It's the NFL MVP. So, Evan, what do you think?
Oh man, I'd have to think about this. I haven't done my homework on this one,
Yeah.
but I don't cover football, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I'm just a fan.
we don't either. We're fans and
Yeah.
I think it's
Steelers.
Jalen Hurts. I know he missed time.
Yeah.
I know he got hurt during the year.
That's the thing. Like,
But are the Eagles there without Jalen Hurts? I don't think they are.
That's what it is.
I don't think they are.
They
Yeah.
lost 2 games without him, and then he came back and they're
Yeah,
in the
they
Super
lost both of the games without him.
He could run for 60, 75 yards in a game.
Yeah.
He can throw, get the job done.
Get the job
He doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
No.
I think Jalen Hurts is the MVP. Of the
I
league.
agree.
That's
with
my
that.
opinion.
I agree with that. I don't know why.
And it's not
But-
because I grew up in Philly. I just think
Yeah,
when you look at it, the Eagles would not be in the Super Bowl
without
if it weren't for Jalen Hurts.
So
Because
I'm torn.
Minshew is not a good. I mean,
He's a backup.
Yeah, he's a backup, but he's not a great starting QB.
Yeah.
I'm torn because
Not a lot of teams have a great backup QB
That
though.
is true.
There's not a ton, maybe a
Yeah.
couple, but not a lot.
Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Because Allen, I feel like he deserves one for what he's done. It just hasn't been his best season.
Yeah,
So I feel like he
Bills had a
deserves
good year.
one, but I'm not sure if he's gonna get one.
Yeah.
So
Josh Allen, he's never been the best in divisional playoffs, divisional round. I agree to Jalen Hurts. I don't know why, but there was a thought in my mind before that NFC Championship. If Brock Purdy would have won the 49ers the Super Bowl, he may have had a chance at MVP.
no, not
But-
MVP. What do I want rookie of the year?
Rookie, he's probably still going to be rookie of
No,
the year.
he only played 6 games.
Oh, he
is
did?
that what it was? Only 6?
I
No,
thought
he
it was-
played
it
6
felt like
regular.
But still, I don't think that's
He
enough to
played
win
6
Rookie of the Year.
regular
Yeah, that's
season.
that's not enough to win.
That's-
I don't think that's enough to win Rookie
That
of the
feels
Year.
like they feel like a lot more.
Yeah.
If he if he won the Super Bowl.
So Jalen Hurts is our MVP.
Yeah, I
think
It's
Yes.
on this show.
Jalen
it's
Hurts
Jalen
is the
Hurts.
Sports Talk Kids MVP.
Sports Talk Kids.
I like that. It's actually a
love
good one.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jack,
I'm Evan.
and we're here.
I'm
special
Robby.
guest for
Thank you, hey guys. Thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank you
coming
for
on.
coming.
My pleasure. See you guys.